Hello everyone, welcome back to the practical series. Today we are going to see some FDC therapeutic problem and prescription related to peptic ulcer and bronchial asthma. Peptic ulcer. A localized loss of gastric as well as duodenal mucosa leads to the formation of peptic ulcer, a term that includes both gastric as well as duodenal ulcer. So what is peptic ulcer? It is a localized loss of gastric as well as duodenal mucosa leads to the formation of peptic ulcer, a term that includes both gastric as well as duodenal ulcer. Peptic ulcer arises when the normal mucosal defense mechanism, that is mucosal blood flow, formation of HCO3 and prostaglandins are impaired, or due to overproduction by the damaging factors like acid, pepsin, NSAIDs and Helicobacter pylori. The common forms of peptic ulcers are duodenal ulcer, gastric ulcer, stress ulcer, NSAIDs induced ulcer, that is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug induced ulcer. Diagnosis: there may be a presence of occult blood in feces. Barium male X-ray shows the presence of ulcer creature. H. pylori infection can be detected by urea breath test, but this test may provide false negative result if used after the treatments with proton pump inhibitors. Symptoms include abdominal discomfort usually occurs in epigastric area, upper middle part of the abdomen, radiating to the back, described as dull gnawing. Ache comes and goes for several days. Pain may increase when the stomach is empty at night or half to 3 hours after meal. Pain is relieved by eating an antacid medications. Helicobacter pylori. H. pylori is a gram-negative bacillus that colonizes the stomach and the duodenum. What is H. pylori? It is a gram-negative bacillus that colonizes the stomach and the duodenum. The infection is acquired by fecal-oral route. Okay. The H. pylori bacteria excretes the enzyme urease, which converts urea into ammonia and bicarbonate. Okay. H. pylori bacteria excretes the enzyme urease, which converts urea into ammonia and bicarbonate. The release of ammonia neutralizes the acidic environment in the stomach, which explains the difficulty in destroying the H. pylori bacterium. Ammonia is toxic to the epithelial cell and damage them. Hence, the beginning of a stomach ulcer takes its course. Drug therapy of peptic ulcer. The drug used are drugs which neutralizes gastric acid, that is antacid. They are systemic antacids and non-systemic antacid. Systemic antacid include sodium bicarbonate, and non-systemic antacid aluminum hydroxide, magnesium trisilicate, magnesium hydroxide, calcium carbonate. Drugs which reduces gastric acid secretion, they are H2 receptor antagonist, proton pump inhibitors, anticholinergic and prostaglandin analogs. H2 receptor antagonists are cimetidine, ranitidine, famotidine, nizatidine. Proton pump inhibitor, omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, rabeprazole, esomeprazole. Anticholinergics are propanthelin, piperazine, talanzapine. Prostaglandin analogs, misoprostol, enprostil, rioprostil. Mucus protective drugs, that is sucralfate, colloidal bismuth, subcitrate. Anti-Helicobacter pylori drugs, they are mainly given in combination. They are amoxicillin, clarithromycin, tetracycline, metronidazole, bismuth, subsalicylate. Now we will see the preferred therapies for eradication of H. pylori infection. The combination of two antibiotics with a proton pump inhibitor is the most efficacious in eradicating H. pylori, because H. pylori becomes less virulent in absence of acid. Okay, PPI also exhibit antimicrobial property in vitro against H. pylori and lower the minimal inhibitory concentration of antibiotics against H. pylori. All proton pump inhibitor except pantoprazole have been approved by FDA in various combination of antibiotics for eradication of H. pylori. Now the drugs combinations are triple therapy, quadruple therapy and sequential therapy. In triple therapy we will see the drugs omeprazole, it is given, or instead of omeprazole we can also give lansoprazole, along with clarithromycin, amoxicillin or metronidazole. The dose of omeprazole is 20 mg BD, clarithromycin 500 mg BD, amoxicillin 1 gram BD or metronidazole 500 mg BD. Next combination, that is the triple therapy combination, ranitidine bismuth citrate 400 mg BD plus clarithromycin 500 mg BD plus metronidazole 500 mg BD or clarithromycin 500 mg BD. Next is quadruple therapy. It is for 14 days. Omeprazole or lansoprazole 20 mg BD plus bismuth subsalicylate 2 tabs QID plus metronidazole 250 mg QID plus tetracycline 500 mg QID. Sequential therapy, it is for 10 days. For first 1 to 5 days, omeprazole or lansoprazole 20 mg BD plus amoxicillin 1 gram BD, followed by days 6 to 10. Omeprazole or lansoprazole 20 mg BD plus clarithromycin 500 mg BD plus tinidazole 500 mg BD. Now we will see the drugs. In triple therapy, omeprazole. Omeprazole, it is a proton pump inhibitor. These are acid labile and can be destroyed by gastric acid. So they are available in enteric coated formulation. Remember, omeprazole, it is mainly available in enteric coated formulation. Clarithromycin, it is a macrolide which inhibit protein synthesis in bacteria, which is highly active against H. pylori. Okay, amoxicillin, it is a penicillin. Metronidazole, it is an nitroimidazole derivative which is effective in eradicating H. pylori infection. Okay. In this table, the combination therapy for 14 days provides the greater efficacy compared to 7 to 10 days therapy, that is short term therapy. Okay. There is also a dual therapy which is now outdated and is not recommended these days, as eradication rate with this drug is less than 80%. Success rate are higher with triple therapy comparable to dual therapy. So dual therapy is not mostly recommended, triple therapy is recommended. If there is failure of H. pylori eradication with triple therapy, okay, if there is failure of H. pylori eradication with triple therapy, then quadruple therapy should be considered as a next step. Okay. Sequential therapy, it is a newly introduced which has demonstrated 90% eradication rate with good patient tolerance. Okay. Now this H. pylori eradication therapy is indicated mostly in duodenal and gastric ulcer. Okay, this therapy of H. pylori eradication is more indicated for duodenal and gastric ulcer and not for NSAIDs induced ulcer. Okay. Moving towards our prescription for peptic ulcer due to H. pylori infection. So first, before starting writing the prescription, you have to write your details, that is Dr. ABC MBBS registration number, date, patient detail, RX symbol, and then you have to start writing the prescription. Drugs given are capsule omeprazole 20 mg BD for 2 weeks, tablet clarithromycin 500 mg BD for 2 weeks, tablet metronidazole 500 mg BD for 2 weeks. After completion of therapy, omeprazole is continued for another 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Ulcer healing to be checked after 8 to 12 weeks with endoscopy. Okay. The ulcer healing should be checked after 8 to 12 weeks with endoscopy. Then we can stop the PPI if the ulcer is healed. Now we will see the drugs used in NSAIDs ulcer. NSAIDs induced ulcer. Aspirin and other NSAIDs are known to cause dyspepsia and symptomatic gastric ulcer, particularly when given in large doses and for long period as in rheumatoid arthritis. Misoprostol 400 microgram BID with NSAIDs daily reduce complication by about 40%. The drug, however, causes diarrhea and is expensive. Proton pump inhibitors are equally effective and they are less expensive. H2 receptor antagonists such as famotidine may also offer protection against NSAIDs-induced dyspepsia. Moving towards our FDC, the combination is light magnesium trisilicate 625 mg plus dried aluminum hydroxide gel 312 milligram per 5 ml. Okay, this is a fixed dose combination. Light magnesium trisilicate and aluminum hydroxide are acid neutralizing agents. These are non-systematic antacids. Okay. Both aluminum hydroxide and magnesium trisilicate neutralizes gastric HCl to form aluminum chloride and magnesium chloride. Okay. Both aluminum hydroxide and magnesium trisilicate neutralize gastric HCl to form aluminum chloride and magnesium chloride respectively, which further react with intestinal bicarbonate to form aluminum carbonate and magnesium carbonate. Hence, HCO3 are not available for systemic absorption as they have been already utilized by this reaction. Okay, moving towards our answer. Rationale for combination. Combination is definitely superior to use of single agent. Magnesium salts have faster onset of action. Aluminum hydroxide is a weak and slow acting antacid. So the combination yields prompt as well as sustained effect. Okay. One is fast acting, another is slow acting. Okay. Magnesium salts are laxative while aluminum salts are constipating. So combination may annul each other action and the bowel movement is least affected. Okay. Magnesium salts are laxative, that is they may cause diarrhea while aluminum salts are constipating. So combination may annul each other action and the bowel movement is least affected. Gastric emptying is least affected. Aluminum salts tends to delay it and magnesium salt tends to hasten it. Dose of individual component is reduced. Systemic toxicity is minimized. Indication of hyperacidity, gastritis, reflux, esophagitis, dyspepsia. Okay, indication hyperacidity, gastritis, reflux, esophagitis and dyspepsia. Doses 5 to 10 ml half hour after meal. Moving towards our next FDC, that is cisapride or metoclopramide 5 mg plus semithicone or dimethicone 125 mg. Okay, before saying its rationale and indication, we will see its mechanism in short. Okay. Cisapride and metoclopramide both are prokinetic drugs that stimulates GIT motility. Cisapride is a 5-HT4 agonist which promote acetylcholine release from myenteric plexus. Okay, COA, cisapride, it is a 5-HT4 receptor agonist which promote acetylcholine release from myenteric plexus. Okay, then metoclopramide, it is a D2 receptor antagonist, then 5-HT3 receptor antagonist and 5-HT4 receptor agonist. Okay, D2 receptor antagonist, 5-HT3 receptor antagonist and 5-HT4 receptor agonist. Due to blockade of D2 receptor, okay, due to blockade of D2 receptor by metoclopramide loses its inhibitory control over acetylcholine release from the primary cholinergic neuron in myenteric plexus. Okay, this metoclopramide blocks D2 receptor. Okay. Due to the blockade of D2 receptor by metoclopramide, dopamine loses its inhibitory control over acetylcholine release, having inhibitory action which is loosed due to blockade caused by metoclopramide. Okay. The primary mechanism responsible for its prokinetic effect is via activation of 5-HT4 receptor present on excitatory interneurons which enhance acetylcholine release from primary cholinergic neurons. Okay. Myenteric plexus, thus it increases LES tone, facilitates gastric peristalsis and speed up gastric emptying. 5-HT4 receptor on inhibitory interneurons are also blocked by metoclopramide but in high doses only. Thus, the release of nitric oxide is also suppressed, which indirectly facilitates acetylcholine release from primary motor neurons. Okay. Then next is simethicone. Simethicone, it is a silicon polymer and therefore has water repellent property. It acts as an anti-foaming agent and reduces gastric flatulence. Okay, simethicone, it acts as an anti-foaming agent and reduces gastric flatulence. It aids proper dispersion of antacid in gastric contents, coats the ulcer surface, prevents hiccups and reduces flatulence. Cisapride or metoclopramide 5 mg plus simethicone or dimethicone. Rationale: Cisapride and metoclopramide are prokinetic agent, increases the LES tone, increases gastric motility and improves esophageal clearance. Okay. Simethicone or dimethicone decreases flatulence. They coat and protect the ulcer surface and prevent gastroesophageal reflux. Okay. Simethicone decreases flatulence. They coat and protect the ulcer surface and prevent gastroesophageal reflux. Indication are gastroesophageal reflux, dyspepsia. Dose 1 to 2 tablets before meal. Now moving towards the therapeutic problem. This is a therapeutic problem number 27 in your journals. I will read the problem. A young adult, an old case of duodenal ulcer, was suffering from infective hepatitis. He was hospitalized and prescribed prednisolone. The patient was improving satisfactory, but after 10 days on morning, he was found collapsed without any complication. What is your comment on this symptomless collapse? What do you accept on post-mortem examination? Okay. Now here the patient was suffering from peptic ulcer and he was suffering from infective hepatitis and he was a case of duodenal ulcer and he was prescribed prednisolone. Prednisolone, it is a corticosteroid. Okay. And the patient shows symptomless collapse. What would you accept on post-mortem examination? Moving towards our answer. Prednisolone is metabolized in liver. Due to hepatitis, prednisolone metabolism is interfered, resulting in rise in plasma concentration of prednisolone. Okay, prednisolone is metabolized in liver. Due to hepatitis, prednisolone metabolism is interfered, resulting in rise in plasma concentration of prednisolone. Prednisolone decreases synthesis of PGE2 and PGI2. Prednisolone decreases synthesis of prostaglandins such as PGE2 and I2 in gastric mucosa. Okay, the role of PGE2. PGE2 inhibit acid secretion by inhibiting cyclic AMP formation in parietal cell, which provide protection to the gastric mucosa. Okay. PGE2 inhibits acid secretion by inhibiting cyclic AMP formation in parietal cell, which provide protection to gastric mucosa. Okay, and PGE2 enhance mucosal blood flow and stimulates secretion of mucus and bicarbonate. Thus, the gastric defense mechanism against peptic ulcer is lost due to prednisolone. High level of prednisolone thus increases secretion of gastric acid pepsin, due to which exciting ulcer got aggravated and perforated, leading to severe hemorrhage. In postmortem, we expect a large amount of blood in abdominal cavity and perforation of duodenal ulcer. Our next topic is bronchial asthma. Okay, asthma is a chronic inflammatory disease in which the patient suffer from reversible episodes of airway obstruction due to bronchial hyperresponsiveness. Okay, what is asthma? Asthma is a chronic inflammatory disease in which the patient suffers from reversible episodes of airway obstruction due to bronchial hyperresponsiveness. In the early acute phases, besides smooth muscle spasm, there is excessive secretion of mucus that may clog the bronchi and bronchioles and worsen the attack. Okay, in the acute phases, besides smooth muscle spasm, there is excessive secretion of mucus that may clog the bronchi and bronchioles and worsen the attack. In late phase, that is chronic or delayed phase, inflammation continues accompanied by fibrosis, edema and necrosis of bronchial epithelial cell. The cardinal symptoms of asthma are breathlessness, wheezing, cough and chest tightness with worsening of these symptoms at night. Drug used to treat bronchial asthma. They are selective beta-2 agonist drugs, then non-selective sympathomimetics, anticholinergic drugs, methylxanthines, corticosteroids, mast cell stabilizer, leukotriene modulators, monoclonal anti-IgE antibody. So first one is selective beta-2 agonist drug. These are short-acting beta-2 agonist and long-acting beta-2 agonist. Short-acting beta-2 agonist, also known as SABA. Okay, SABA. They are salbutamol, terbutaline, ramipril, phenoterol. Long-acting beta-2 agonists are salmeterol, formoterol, bambuterol. Non-selective sympathomimetics are epinephrine, ephedrine, isoprenaline. Anticholinergic drugs, ipratropium, tiotropium, oxytropium. Methylxanthines, theophylline, aminophylline, doxophylline. Corticosteroids, there are oral, parenteral and inhalational. Oral are prednisone, prednisolone, methylprednisolone. Parenteral are hydrocortisone, methylprednisolone. Okay. Then inhalational are baclomethasone, fluticasone, budesonide, flunisolide, ciclisolide. Then mast cell stabilizer, sodium chromoglycate and necorandil, leukotriene modulators, xylitol, zafilocast, montelukast and pramlocast. Monoclonal anti-IgE antibodies are omalizumab. Now we will see the prescription for acute attack of bronchial asthma. Okay, we have to write down first the details. Here the drug given is salbutamol 100 microgram per puff by pressurized meter dose inhaler, can be repeated up to 10 to 12 puffs in 1 hour till attack subside. Okay, salbutamol 100 microgram per puff by pressurized meter dose inhaler can be repeated up to 10 to 12 puffs in 1 hour till attack subside. Okay. Here the inhaled salbutamol is a drug of choice for managing acute attack of bronchial asthma because they are less likely to activate other adrenoreceptor. Okay. Salbutamol, it relaxes the smooth muscles of airway, it enhances the mucociliary clearance from respiratory tract and also inhibit mediator release. Okay. Salbutamol, what are its action? It relaxes the smooth muscles of airway. It enhances the mucociliary clearance from respiratory tract and also inhibit mediator release. It may also be given subcutaneous or intramuscular in a dose of 0.5 milligram, okay, or IV slowly in a dose of 0.25 milligram at the rate of 5 to 10 microgram per minute. Okay. Now here, when a patient is prescribed an inhaler, okay, when a patient is prescribed an inhaler, he or she must be taught to synchronize the actuation of the inhaler with inspiration so as to maximize the delivery of drug to the lungs. Okay. Here the short-acting beta agonists are less useful when taken regularly, and hence they should be used only as and when they are needed. Okay, they are safe in pregnancy. Terbutaline, it is a bronchodilator, safe in pregnancy. In acute attack, adrenaline hydrocortisone, when administered subcutaneously in a dose of 0.2 to 0.5 ml 1:1 solution, is effective within few minutes. Okay. Acute attack, adrenaline hydrocortisone. It must be injected slowly and no further injection is given if the attack subsides. But now adrenaline is no more recommended because of the inconvenience of administration and its serious toxicity. Okay. Adrenaline now is no more recommended because of the inconvenience of administration and its serious toxicity. Okay. In acute attack of asthma, if treatment with inhaled selective short-acting beta agonist, that is SABA, fails in about half to 1 hour, then aminophylline is administered. Okay. In acute attack of asthma, if treatment with inhaled selective SABA fails in about half to 1 hour, aminophylline is administered by IV infusion in 5% glucose in a dose of 5 milligram per kg over 15 to 30 minutes, followed by 0.5 to 1 milligram per kg per hour for several hours. If an acute attack of asthma is not treated within 2 hours by giving SABA aminophylline, the patient should be treated as a case of severe acute asthma, that is status asthmaticus. Okay. If an acute asthma attack is not terminated within 2 hours by giving short-acting beta agonist or aminophylline, the patient should be treated as a case of severe acute asthma, that is status asthmaticus. Technique of using a pressurized inhaler. First, shake the container thoroughly. Hold the mouthpiece of the inhaler 4 cm away from the open mouth or use a spacer. Breathe out slowly and completely. Discharge the inhaler while taking a slow deep breath 5 to 6 seconds. Hold the breath in full inspiration for 10 seconds. Use of spacer reduces the velocity of aerosol and allows more drug to reach the airway. Use of spacer reduces the velocity of the aerosol and allows more drug to reach the airway. Moving towards our next prescription, that is status asthmaticus. Okay. It is also known as severe acute asthma. Status asthmaticus, it is a serious medical emergency, required urgent hospitalization and vigorous therapy. It is often precipitated by an acute respiratory infection, abrupt cessation of glucocorticoid therapy, drugs, that is aspirin or NSAIDs called inhaled allergens, acute emotional stress. A patient in status is markedly dysphonic, exhausted, sinusized and dehydrated. Now the drug treatment for status asthmaticus, also known as severe acute asthma. So the drugs given are: first, high flow humidified inhalational oxygen through face mask, injection hydrocortisone hemisuccinate 100 mg IV start followed by 100 mg 8-hourly infusion, nebulized salbutamol 5 mg plus ipratropium bromide 0.5 mg intermittent inhalation drive by oxygen. Injection salbutamol 0.4 mg intramuscular or subcutaneous start, or instead of salbutamol we can give terbutaline 0.4 mg intramuscular or subcutaneous start. Injection aminophylline 250 mg diluted in 25 ml of glucose solution injected in 25 minutes. This is followed by a 100 mg IV infusion every 8 hourly. Okay. Correct dehydration and acidosis with saline and sodium bicarbonate infusion. Okay. So here the drugs given are hydrocortisone hemisuccinate, then salbutamol, ipratropium bromide, okay, aminophylline. Okay. Hydrocortisone hemisuccinate, it is a corticosteroid. Okay. It enhances beta 2 receptor response by upregulating the beta 2 receptor in lung cells and leukocytes. Okay, it enhances beta 2 receptor response by upregulating the beta 2 receptors in lung cells and leukocytes. It inhibits the release of prostaglandins and leukotrienes and thus prevents smooth muscle contraction and airway mucus secretion. Corticosteroids also inhibit the formation and release of cytokines and chemical mediators from mast cells and eosinophil. Our next drug is ipratropium bromide. It's an anticholinergic drug. As the airway have parasympathetic innervation, atropine-like drugs, that is ipratropium bromide, can induce bronchodilation and have been used as a remedy in bronchial asthma. A combination of ipratropium plus salbutamol by inhalational produce additive effect because ipratropium acts on large and medium sized bronchi, whereas salbutamol, that is beta 2 agonist, acts predominantly on smaller bronchi. Okay, a combination of ipratropium plus salbutamol by inhalational produce additive effect. Okay, because ipratropium acts on a large and medium size bronchi, whereas salbutamol, that is beta 2 agonist, acts predominantly on smaller bronchi. Okay, aminophylline. Next drug, aminophylline, it's a stable mixture of theophylline and ethylene diamine. Aminophylline inhibit phosphodiesterase 3 in airway smooth muscles and phosphodiesterase 4 also. Okay, which is phosphodiesterase 4, which is present in eosinophil and mast cell. Okay, aminophylline inhibits phosphodiesterase 3 in airway smooth muscles and phosphodiesterase 4 present in eosinophil and mast cell. These are the two specific isoenzymes, okay, phosphodiesterase 3 and phosphodiesterase 4. These are the two specific isoenzymes responsible for metabolism of cyclic AMP. Therefore, the cyclic AMP, okay, the cyclic AMP levels therefore gets elevated, leading to bronchodilation. It also inhibit adenosine receptor in the airway. It is given rapidly IV, may cause, if it is given rapidly IV, it may cause nausea, vomiting, cardiac arrhythmia and collapse. Okay, so aminophylline should be given very slowly over 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, thank you all of you, take care.